Recording drums is scary. There's so much to think about. You gotta know phase and you gotta have all the right microphones and the best studio and all that bullshit. Or, alternatively, recording drums is super easy and you can do it for all different price points that are entry level enough for anybody to get into, essentially. Today I'm gonna go through and show you a few different drum miking setups that you can use with different price point microphones so you can decide what will actually work for you in your studio at home. Now, I've done a video before where I did all different numbers of mics, but I think that the bare minimum to do a good drum sound is 4 microphones. A kick microphone, a snare microphone, and then a set of overheads. Of course, someone's gonna say in the comments, like, what about Glenn Johns' method? Glenn Johns is awesome. Love the Glenn Johns method. We're not doing that today. That's not what this fucking video is about. So just pay attention to what the fuck I'm talking about and we'll get from there. So we're gonna do just a 4 microphone setup. I will compare just the overheads because you can get away with doing 2 microphones. I think 2 microphones can give you a passable drum sound, but I wouldn't call it like an easy to use drum sound because you're gonna have to modify stuff. You're gonna have to do some finagling to make things sound better. So we're gonna start off with the lowest price point, which is 357s, 57s on the overheads in a space pair, 57 on the snare drum, and then the Beta 52 on the kick drum. I'm going to leave the Beta 52 and the 57 as the permanent standing for my drum sound, and then we'll swap out the overheads to get an upgraded price point. Up next is the AKG C114s. These are a great price microphone for the amount of options that you get for them. I think they're about $230 a piece, but I do think they are really good. They have multiple polar patterns. You can use omni, figure 8, and cardioid. We're going to use the cardioid option on this right now. And this is basically about twice the cost of a pair of 57s. So a pair of 57s is about $200. These are about $200 a piece. So you're looking at about $200 more than what it would cost for the 57s, but I think in quality it might be a big jump. All right, our last setup is gonna be the Lewitt 440s. I think these are about $300 a piece, so this is gonna put our whole drum sound somewhere around under $1,000 for this setup. So I've never actually tried the 440s on overheads before, but I normally use the Lewitt tube mics as my overheads, and they've done me really well. So I'm gonna assume that the 440s will do a great job too. So here are the 57s, and honestly, some of you are going to be surprised by how good this sounds, but some of you are not. Some of you are going to be like, I don't knew 57s was the best there ever was, man, 57s. I mean, these are just 57s, 3 57s and a Beta 52, but you also understand why I say that it takes 4 microphones to really get the most professional sound, because with the 2 microphones, with just the 57s overhead, it's not going to be quite as big and full as it could be. But here is the entire drum set as just 57s and the Beta 52 kick. We got pretty decent toms, pretty decent kick and snare, but let's remove that kick and snare real quick and take a listen to what just the overheads as the 57s are. We just lose a little bit of that depth of the kick and snare, and if you really want modern music has the kick and snare real far forward. But those 57s are pretty decent on their own. Here is the toms, just 57s. They're decent, right? I could use a little more low end on the tom. The kick is really where it gets bad, because whenever there's no kick microphone, we really just lose any direct sound. It's just all kind of tone, right? It's all room sound. But the snare is still pretty adequate. So these 114s I think are really punching above their weight. They sound really good, especially in the overall mix with the kick and snare in. You're getting good stereo width. You're getting a really clean sound from the kick and snare. Let's just solo these overs real quick. Now we have the same problem with the kick where it's just not really as much as I would love to have in terms of what a kick drum should sound like. But with that kick added back in already, it really is making a difference. So let's now listen to those toms. Pretty full sounding toms. Let's compare those real quick just to the 57s. Just so much more body there. Same thing with the floor tom. Just kind of papery and cracky with the 57s, but as soon as you get those 114s, you now have some real, some body to them, right? They sound pretty good. I think for a $220 mic or whatever they are, those 114s really do just, they're handling it great. I like these 114s a lot. Now let's go to the 440s. I think the 114s and the 440s are going to have a very similar sound overall. We are getting a large diaphragm condenser in a space pair over top of some great 60s Gretsch drums. So let's take a listen to the 440s and see how they fared. They sound really great. Let's just hear them soloed up real quick. I still feel like I'm missing a bunch of the kick whenever I'm just using the overheads. Again, why I feel like it's so necessary to have a 4-mic setup is because you lose that definition of the kick and the snare. And it also gives you, when you have a kick and a snare, it gives you the option to, you know, if you have to sample replace them, if you need a little bit more of something, you can put something layered on top of it. Having the kick and snare is really essential. I think you can get away with not having the toms, but I think the kick and snare really is essential. And then here's the kick compared to the 114. Pretty similar sound. I think the 114 might be a little more tight feeling overall compared to the 57s. I think, yeah, with the 57s, it's the only ones where you just really have nothing. Toms for the 440s, for the 114s, and then for the 57s. The high tom isn't so bad with the 57s, but whenever we go to the floor tom, we'll really notice the difference. Nice for the 440, sounds really nice. 114s. 114s and the 440s are pretty good. I might edge out just a little bit with the 440s for the floor tom. They're justifying their extra $100. In our actuality, these are both really great microphones for under $500. So I would happily have both of those. And then the 57s, of course. And not only that, because we're not close mic'd, we can't do anything to change it. Yeah, so you could definitely get away with doing it with just 57s on the cheapest price point. I think the 114s as a step up from that are absolutely amazing. And they really are comparable with the 440s as far as what they're getting. I think maybe the 440s edge them out a tiny bit with the low end on the toms, but maybe you're not going to miss that at all. You probably won't if it's barely even noticeable here. When I started recording 20 years ago, the goal was never to become a Grammy Award-winning engineer. The goal was to just be the best engineer. And I did that by spending hours and hours every single day in the studio, experimenting with things, trying new things, learning as much as I could about the gear, about the rooms, about the instruments, every single part of it. And I've taken all of that information and I've shoved it into easy-to-understand courses that are available at GreazyDoesIt.com. So stop trying to solve your problems by watching YouTube videos and get focused learning at GreazyDoesIt.com.